Greetings, Spooky Pinball Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 127 of the Spooky Pinball Podcast. I am your host, Bug, and today, as you can see if you're watching, we are doing a little bit different format again for like the third time in a row. And I'm joined here with three other guests on Zoom right now, because we're all miles and miles apart from each other. So I'm joined here with, in my top left corner, Mr. David Van Ness.
Hey!
And in my bottom left corner, I got Mr. Scott Danesi, designer of Rick and Morty. And in my bottom right corner, I got Mr. Eric.
Close enough.
So this month, we're trying something a little different. David's in Texas at the moment, so doing the full studio setup just wasn't going to work out. And we decided to do a Zoom meeting between the four of us. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the entire process of Rick and Morty from start to finish pretty much. So napkin drawing to where we are today on the line, quite a ways deep into production now. So we're just going to roll with it. We'll do all one long take here. We'll take breaks for EM Dungeon and Danny Peck's segment and the Pinball Life giveaway and whatnot. But yeah. We're just going to go with it now. So from the top here, Mr. Scott Danesi.
Hello.
You did TNA. Everybody knows this. You did TNA.
I did.
And after TNA was a big success, a lot of the questions were, when's Scott doing the next game? So how long would you say after Total Nuclear did you know you were doing the next spooky game? Because you had ideas during Total Nuclear for the next game. But how long would you say till you knew, yeah, I'm doing another spooky pinball game?
Well, so we basically knew at like Southern Fried Game Room Expo, I think it was 2017 maybe. We knew we were going to go ahead and just start, green lighting the project and getting rolling with it. But at that point in time, I had already been drawing mechanisms and things that I wanted to put in a machine. So for instance, the big thing is that new locking mechanism that's in Rick and Morty. That one I had drawn out and tried to figure out, how I could potentially get it to work. But that was actually the first piece besides the flippers that went into the SolidWorks drawing, because I don't know if a lot of you guys know or not. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I do everything in SolidWorks in 3D. As you can probably tell, I have complete control over everything then. It's not just like a 2D drawing. I can make flippers move or inserts move although inserts don't move. But you know where I'm getting at. But so the first thing I did was put the flippers down, and then what I did was I aligned that locking mechanism in the middle and started going from there and then building outward from that. It just just kind of got crazy after that. But yeah, we knew pretty early on that it was a go and that Rick and Morty was like one of the top contenders at that point. But yeah.
So you literally, in your SolidWorks program, have a blank playfield layout, right?
I do, yeah. I start from scratch every time.
You've got the idea in your mind and you go to your program and you literally would just draw down essentially the horseshoe lock from start to finish.
Yeah. So, well, what really works for me and how I go about doing is I do have a blank playfield, and I put in something like, just basic stuff like flippers and some other like little things here and there, maybe lane guides or something. And what I'll do is, instead of trying to prototype things in 3D, because it's not very quick to prototype things in, I will actually just print that out. So I have a blank playfield with flippers in the place where I want them, and print it, start drawing on it some more. When I find something I like, then I'll take that drawing and then start building that in 3D. And then I'll print it again with the 3D stuff that I already did, and I'll draw on it again, and I'll just keep iterating and doing that. Unfortunately, I throw all that stuff away. I probably should have kept those, now that I said that. I probably shouldn't have even admitted that, but yeah.
What was the second thing you threw onto the game after the horseshoe?
The pop bumper. I bet you people could probably guess that. I really wanted to put a pop bumper instead of a sling, because it's something that's just so crazy. And if any of you played a game like Andromeda, it's that pop bumper being right there is really cool, and it does a lot of different, it has a lot of different action that you don't normally see.
Yeah, there's a number of old games. Some of them are crazy enough that the pop is like in between the flippers, and you have tiny flippers and whatnot. And we weren't that cruel, but we could have been.
No. This game is cruel enough as it is.
Exactly. So Eric, for a long time, David Fosma was always our programmer, and then when Rick and Morty came along, we essentially allowed Scott to assemble a whole new team of people to work in this game. So how early on in the process did you know you were going to be a part of this process?
Well, Scott had been saying, even during the TNA production, if I design another game, I don't want to program it. I want you to program it. And it was always sort of a, yeah, sure, Scott, we'll do that someday, and didn't really take it seriously. And then it was after the license was locked down, and after I think even the Whitewood was done, and there had already been the retreat that you guys did where you watched the entire series together and took notes and stuff, and like fleshed out the basic skeleton for what the rules were going to be as far as the dimensions and the mega seeds. All that happened before he even offered it to me. And then it was, hey, I really actually want you to do this. And by the way, it's Rick and Morty. And then there was no stopping me from doing whatever it took to get into the crew working on it then.
Because by that point, you thought it was still just a haunted house party, right?
Yeah, well,
I don't think he believed me.
I don't even know if I'd
There's no
heard
way.
the fake name by that point. But yeah, he didn't really talk too much about it other than he had the Whitewood, I think, already at Pinball Life flipping before he told me that what the theme was.
Yeah, I think that was it. I knew like deep down that if I told you what the theme was, I could get you on board. So I
I probably would have been on board anyway, but it was definitely a big sweetener to the deal.
You had him locked in when you told him what title it was.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Come on,
And
if it was little My Little Pony, Eric, you would have been on it, right?
Maybe. But somebody actually dug up a post I made on Pinside years before the project ever started in one of those, what theme would you like to see threads, where I said, I'd really like to see Rick and Morty, but I don't think there's enough following for that. And it was like 2 years before this.
There's at least 750 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, early on in that show, it didn't catch on necessarily right away. It was probably late second season, early third season when the show really started to catch on and hit it big. It was
and I think it was during the second season that I made that post.
Well,
okay. It was very niche for a while there, and then it just took off. People realized they finally got their hands on it.
Bug, when did you start watching Rick and Morty? Did you see it from the beginning, or did you? What season did you? Where did you pick up? Where did you first come into Rick and Morty?
So I got into it about halfway through season 2. I had a family trip down to Kentucky for the 4th of July. And one of my coworkers, AJ, who a lot of people know AJ, he was telling me, hey, you have like a 9-hour drive, don't you? And I was like, yeah. And it's with my mom and sister. So like dad wasn't even going to be there. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do to kill 9 hours. And he was like, oh, you should check out this show, Rick and Morty. It'll be right up your alley. And I think you'll really enjoy it. And I was like, okay, sure. I'm not going to say no. I have 9 hours to kill. So downloaded a whole bunch of episodes on the Kindle. I bought the first season on Amazon. It was like $10. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's worth it. So I bought the first season on the Kindle, and I just sprawled out in the back seat and I started watching, and it was about the first or second episode deep where I just started hysterically laughing in the back seat of the car, and mom was just leaning back like, what are you doing? Like, what are you watching? And I was like, I'm not going to repeat what they're saying to you, but it's really funny. So I got into it big time right around then. I marathoned the whole first season on that road trip. And when I got back, I was like, Dad, you really need to watch this. I think you'll find it hilarious. And he did. We watched the whole first season again. And then we got season 2. And it was, that's about the time when we started getting into it. I was probably, I want to say a freshman or a sophomore. I think sophomore. It was like in the summer before I was a sophomore in high school. And I'm graduated from high school now and building them full time. So
Scott, what about you?
how long it takes. What was that?
Scott, when did you get into it? When did you discover Rick and Morty?
So I started watching it in the first season, about halfway through the first season. I forgot which friend told me to watch it, but there were multiple people coming to me and saying, Scott, you got to see this. This is exactly the kind of show that you would love, you know, because I was a huge South Park fan. And they're like, you got to just watch this thing. Like, just give it a chance, do this. And it was like, after like 3 people tell you that, you're kind of like, okay. You know, I'm going to go check it out. So I started watching it then, and then just couldn't stop after that. Like, it's just such a well-written show. It's so great. But yeah, I kept with it. So I had my phone. I was actually watching it on my phone, like, you know, when I go to bed on Sundays. So it's like,
Eric, what about you, mate?
I was watching it from the first episode aired. I was on board.
I watched it before it was cool. And then what about you, David? When did you start getting into it?
It was definitely in season 2. So I heard it from a few friends, and then obviously it peaked up on the spooky, you know, like what could we get with spooky? So I went back and picking up from episode 1. I will say the couple of episodes, like I like it, but I'm not sure what to make of it yet. And then like you get to some of those episodes, you know, with Snowball and stuff, and you're like, not Snowball, brain freeze. I got Snowball from Simpsons.
Snowball's in the dog episode.
Oh, Eric.
Snuffles?
Snuffles. There you go. And it's just like episodes like that like, they just can, you know, it speaks on a level of like intelligence and just far thinking of like, wow, there's some deep, I mean, as much as it's comedy, but there's really intelligent humor in this, you know? I mean, there's just straight up humor and it's just like, what? But yeah, I was second in the second season. Then obviously when we became interested, it then went further into it. So no, well, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Keep going.
I knew I was hooked on it when I think it's like 5 or 6 episodes deep, and it's the episode where they replace themselves in a different dimension because they Cronenberg the whole world.
Oh.
And it was the darkest but funniest ending to a TV show episode I'd ever seen. And
that was what really
that's when
locked
I
me
knew
in
I was
too.
completely in. Like, oh, I got to see what else is going to happen in this show because that's so messed up, but so clever and well written too at the same time.
Well, that was the first episode that was actually really real consequences to their actions. Like from that point, everyone's life completely shifted. You know, that's a cartoon, so we don't need to go into that type of stuff.
This can get really dark really fast.
So obviously we really all enjoyed the series. Eric, let's talk about, you know, creating the adventures and stuff. And like, I know, you know, the fun part is when we get to be creative and just like, what if, let's do this. But the programming side of it, can you take us through some of like, this is the most amazing thing. And it's like, this sucks and I just want to quit.
Well, I've never gotten to the this sucks and I want to quit part, but the thing that's the most challenging, especially with trying to tell the adventures stories, is coming up with a way we can kind of have the player take part in it with what's on the playfield and be able to construct it and show it to the player given the assets that we have from the show and what tweaks we can or can't make and things that, you know, limitations that we have to work within because we decided to, for the most part, do the display as video from the show that kind of locks us into certain things. Like, you know, like with some other games, you don't necessarily see the exact representation of the source material right on the screen. And because we're doing that, everything has to look as good as that, or at least look like it blends in with that. So the tricky bit that I spend most of my time trying to figure out how we're going to work around is when we're drafting out, let's do this new adventure. The number one thing I'm concerned with is how are we going to present it on the screen, because that's where most of our limitations are. And then after that, we start to figure out, okay, what would make the rules for this make sense so that it integrates well with what the player's doing to what the story is, without going too detailed into all the little steps, because it would just be tedious.
Yeah, no, and
that fart dimension.
Well, and that's what's important, right? Like the immersion of the player. And it's like, we want to make sure that the person that's playing it, because it's obviously from the perception that everyone is Morty, right? So we want to make sure when you're playing it, you're feeling like you're a part of that adventure. You're interacting with that. And that's that's the tedious bit that, Eric and me, I'm surprised he doesn't want to kill me yet, but it's just going back and forth, figuring out what's the best representation and what's the simplest way can we portray that to the player, right? Like, how can we make them feel like they're a part of that? And there's tons of stuff that go back and forth that some of you guys will never see, but it's just part of that natural progression of how do we communicate and how do we get that experience in a pinball format, which is like, I don't know why we do it. We're on our 5th game, and it's just like, we seem to keep managing to do it. So let's just keep at it, right?
And Eric's in an interesting position where he has to logistically think about all the crazy ideas we throw at him for dimensions too. Like, because I remember when we first got this, there had to have been 100 different dimension ideas that everybody had. And it was like, oh, we got to write this down. We got to write that one down. And of course, like, not everything sticks that you want to stick. But I like to think that the dimensions in the game are very, very unique, each of their own, from the Wilhelm scream dimension, which is just for laughs, or a fart dimension for laughs, to dimensions where things are literally deactivated, like the flipper or the pop bumper or flippers might be a different, orientated differently. And I think that's one of the stronger points in the game in general, is the fact that we can literally change everything about the game just by getting into a different dimension. And when you're play testing on the line and you're trying to hit the right orbit and you go into a dimension and all of a sudden that flipper blocks the shot every time you do it, it's really hard to play test that game.
Actually, go to Scott. What is some of maybe a little things that you're proud of? Like, you've got the finished game. You're playing it. What are there little things that amuse you that like people wouldn't see typically? Like, are there little things that make you smile, that go, oh man, that's just, that was satisfying? Just any little details that you can think of about the game that, I can't believe we did that, or something like, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, honestly, like when I'm watching people play this thing and I'm watching the pop bumper make shots for people, that to me is like the coolest thing. And that was something at first that we were playing with the pop bumper strength. Eric, do you remember that right away at first? We were like, oh, we just like overlooked it or something in some version of the code. And there was like I don't know, there's a few weeks when we were play testing it and the pop bumper was just like very weak and it wasn't making shots. And all of a sudden we were like, oh, we just need to change this one thing because we forgot about it. And the pop bumper just like came alive and was just getting crazy. But that to me is the number one thing that's just the best little thing that game does. I'm really happy with how the lock mechanism turned out as well. When you get that game like completely nice and level, it really, like the one I've got at Pinball Life, I've got a prototype there. I've got that thing it's perfectly level, and that thing shoots every time all the way through there at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's really fun. It's a very hard game though, and I think that's one of the things that probably makes Eric's job a little bit tough too, because you have to tell the story quickly and also make sure that the player doesn't feel frustrated by it as well. But yeah, there's all sorts of other little things in here too. I mean, just having to do with the geometry. Every little thing on this playfield has been looked at for hours, like whether it's a post or the width of an entry for a ramp or something, or the width of anything, or the outward angle of the horseshoe or the outward angle of the scoop. There's so much stuff, and it's so rewarding to see this thing all together and people enjoying it. It's crazy.
Okay, Bug, what about you? Since you are playtesting the doozy out of this game, what are some of the small things that you really like about this title and amuses you?
So right now, one of my favorite things to do is, so I just learned how to start playtesting probably about 4 or 5 months ago now. I have a horrible time keeping track of times anymore, but so in that time, I learned how to play test, and I already obviously I could play the game pretty decently, but I didn't know how to actually work on the game and fix the game in certain situations. And I've hit a point on the line lately where I've got a very comfortable understanding of how the game should feel. And I enjoy that at the end of the week, I have a handful of people at work that will say, hey, can you come flip this game and tell me if there's anything I should adjust? And I go over and I can like sit them down and be like, okay, here's what you should look for. You should always be able to backhand this right ramp just like this. And they're like, oh, okay. And I can show them like, this is how your subway exit off the left ramp needs to feed most of the time. Here's how your habit trail entry should feed. So right now, the most rewarding thing for me is making sure that the key shots in the game flow nicely and helping other people to adjust them so they do. Because it's really cool to see everybody in the shop as you train them grow into actually being able to play a pretty decent game just because they're working on it all the time. So in the last month here, I've trained a couple new guys on playtesting, and it's really cool to see how quickly people can understand the game just in a short amount of time of working with them one-on-one and getting them to understand what makes the shots feel good, how you need to adjust your flippers and all that. And so I find that very rewarding, is actually just helping people to understand certain things in it. So that, and every once in a while I can get that inner orbit like 6 times, and that feels great.
All right, Eric, over to you, mate.
As far as satisfying bits of the game, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm kind of surprised Scott didn't mention the virtual orbit, because he always talks about that one where the far right automatically hits your left in lane like
Yeah, I do love that.
But and probably physically my favorite part of it is the same thing Scott said, having a ball hit the top of the pop bumper and then just happen to go into a lock for you, or go around the loop back and set up an upper flipper shot. It's just, that's as simple as it is. It's a really, really cool thing to happen during the game. And then the other thing, I guess, that when you're playing that, you know, that happens that really kind of feels really good is when you get a dimension that lines up really well with whatever adventure you're doing. Like if you get the new one that multiplies the scoring on the right half of the playfield while you're doing Blood Dome, and all of a sudden those shots are worth a mint. That's
you know what sucks, Eric? When you get the TNA dimension and you get parts of the pancreas.
Right, because then you're getting that big zero.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. Time to change dimensions before you try and make any shots.
Yeah.
So for me, what I actually enjoy the most is going into like Pickle Rick. That is actually different than shooting the scoop. I always enjoy that he calls out to you to go to the garage. But what I actually like is trapping the ball and just backhanding the pop to count up to, you know, to kill the rats. And it's like, oh, you shouldn't do that. But it's actually, you can keep it under control really, really well. Like everyone goes, oh no, that pop bumper is going to kill the ball, you know, and you can trap up. I mean, it gets a little bit dicey, but you literally just trap up and you backhand that pop bumper and it works every time, you know. But if you try and do it while it's wild, it sucks. But, you know, but apart from that, like everyone goes, oh, you just can't do that. I said, no, you just trap up and just backhand it like you do, you know, like a post pass, you know. And that's probably what I, you know, one of the things I like is like when you can do things like, oh, you shouldn't do that because traditionally you shouldn't do it. And you do it and it's successful. So I just like that mode because A, it's different from all the other adventures. And then like who seriously goes like, yeah, you got to shoot the pop bumper to advance.
Yeah,
mode.
on purpose.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's unconventional.
Right, so real quick here on the audio side for the podcast, this is where we're going to go into our other segments, the EM Dungeon and Dangerous Danny Peck's segment. And on our way back from there, real quick, I want to talk about a GoFundMe for Save Cabin Fever. It is a pinball, beer, and vinyl shop. There's a GoFundMe. They're having a hard time with the pandemic currently and staying open. So if you get the chance, go over to the Save Cabin Fever on GoFundMe. They have a goal of $10,000 and they're already at $7,000. So make sure you go check that out and kick over a few bucks so that a cool location stays live. That'd be really cool. And okay, yeah, we are back. So real quick, while I have a fine Pinball Life employee with me, let's do a quick Pinball Life giveaway.
All right.
So this month, and I can show it because I'm on camera, we are giving away a, oh no.
Oh, it's blown out.
I can't show it. Okay, well, that's a shooter rod. It's a Bally pointed shooter rod from Pinball Life, brought to you by Terry, Margaret, Scott Danesi, and all the other amazing people over at Pinball Life. If you want to go to their website at pinballlife.com, you can get this Bally pointed shooter rod for $9.95. This is the nickel-plated shooter rod used in early Bally games. It does not fit the stern shooter housings, so you're using this for your older restorations. But if you are looking to win the Bally pointed shooter rod, you're going to email bug@spookypinball.com, and your question is, what's the question, Scott?
How many times has the flipper gone around on the background behind me?
Oh, impossible. No,
Totally impossible.
The question is, since there's a Dusk Till Dawn poster back there, send us in who's the director of the film Dusk Till Dawn, and who did he co-write it with, which is another really popular director. So email bug@spookypinball.com, the director and co-writer for Dusk Till Dawn, and you will get your chance to win a Bally shooter rod. So
Hey, you could even go deeper on that question. Who was the actual story by?
then all three of those things.
Yeah, do all those.
Give me a full book about Dusk Till Dawn, because we all love that movie. All right, so the next question is, Scott, if you were to design Dusk Till Dawn pinball, what would that look like?
You want to know what it would look like? It would look
keep
like
it family
you guys.
friendly.
It would look like you guys beating me up because I'd not seen that movie.
What? All right, you're
Yeah.
coming up. I'm coming up to Benton the next week. You're coming up over a weekend, and we're gonna have a movie night.
All right. Well.
You are invited down. No, last time Scott was over, we watched Total Recall, and
Yeah.
that was a great
man.
freaking time.
What a great movie that is.
That would make a great Scott Danesi game, too.
It would.
It
The
really
4K
would.
version is just being. It's coming out. They just announced the 4K
Yeah, we watched the original straight up.
VHS.
Was it on VHS? No, I think they had it on DVD.
I
Okay.
wish it was on VHS. None of this has anything to do with pinball unless you're talking about the game that didn't get made, Total Recall.
Yeah.
But going forward here, Scott, is there anything in the game you really wish you could have had in there now that you're looking at the done product, or are you pretty satisfied with all that is there?
No, so this game actually, and Charlie's done this to me twice now, where he is not making me remove things that that we think, maybe we should remove it for just cost. So it's super interesting. And I've mentioned this before, but I actually threw in something in the game that we could remove as a thing to give me leverage when the negotiations happened where we needed to remove money out of the game. And that was the MagnaSave. So I put the MagnaSave in later on, after the whitewood was assembled and everything. And I actually chiseled it out of the bottom of the whitewood that Eric has. If Eric goes and looks at the bottom of his playfield, I chiseled it out by hand and put that in there. And, I had Charlie come over and play it, and I was talking about all the different things on it. And I talked about the MagnaSave, and I'm like, oh, well, if it gets too expensive. Oh, sorry, guys.
The dogs are angry.
They must hear something. I don't know. But Charlie came over.
Realize
and,
there's a slice of pizza on your head.
Yeah, I know.
They're hungry.
Something like that. Hey, dogs, chill. Yeah, they're fine. But Charlie was playing the game, and he goes, "We absolutely cannot remove the MagnaSave. It's so fun." And I was like, I actually agree. And it's such a neat implementation of MagnaSave that it just needed to be done again. It hadn't been done, I think, in this kind of way for a very long time. I can't really remember if it was done past Black Knight, the original, the same way that I did it.
I
That's
don't
where I
think
got
so.
the
As
idea
far as I
from.
know, all the Magna saves hold on to the ball. They don't have
Yeah.
that loose bouncing effect like
Yeah,
this
and
one does.
I'm not a real big fan of the Magna saves that just grab the ball and then just like save it for you. I mean, it's like, you know, it's been done a lot, you know, it's not that it's bad, but it's just been done a lot. But this is a more of a tool than it is a, you know, a guaranteed save, you know, so you can kind of play with it and pulse it and like learn how to actually use it. But that was the thing that I expected not to make it to the final version. But it made it. So there really isn't anything else. I mean, we did want to add some inserts, but it was kind of too late in the process. But you know, it turned out real nice.
Yeah, and the Magna save has become somewhat of a crutch for me and Dad, because now every time we play any other game ever, we start slapping the side gun. Oh, snap, it's not there.
Yeah. Yep. And the button is like right there too, where like the Shadow had it and where like Black Knight had it. Just so it's real nice and easy to get to.
So Eric, what were probably the biggest challenges still going forward now for you and this game? Because programming is very, the more I talk to Fosma about programming, the more I realize it's way over my head.
Yeah, the biggest headache is easily the new lock mechanism. A physical pinball lock in any pinball machine, if you ask people who program pinball, they're going to gripe about it, because if switches fail, it's a problem, and making sure you know where the ball is. Physical ball locks are just a headache no matter what. Now, imagine a physical ball lock where the ball can move around inside the lock. And for 50% of that moving around, it's not on a switch. So you don't know if it's there or not. And both ends of that lock can open at any time. Yeah, that was quite the pain in the neck. But the other stuff that's difficult is all the stacking to it. But because the basic framework of the rules was decided at that original get together where everybody watched all the episodes, I knew to expect basically all of these things, the mega seeds and the dimensions and stuff, so that the very first thing I started doing when I started writing code for it was writing an underlying series of handlers that could do all of these things, like replacing rules for physical parts of the game or completely changing the way the lights work, you know, stuff that, like, before I even wrote any adventures or anything else, I was planning for all of these interchangeable bits. So it didn't turn out to be as hard necessarily as it could have been, especially if I would have heard about these ideas later. But
that doesn't happen now, does it?
When you get in a dimension and you've got an adventure going and you're in both multi-balls at once, that stuff gets a little crazy.
Yeah, well, and that's the programmers always kind of get the short end of the stick when it comes to these things, because when a designer comes up with an idea and they can get the actual physical mech to somehow work, by that point they say, I don't know, the programmer will figure it out from there. Like that, it's almost just not taken into consideration after a certain point.
Yeah, sorry, Eric.
But it happens. They always figure it out, it seems.
It did. I mean, he did. It works great. I at least there's a long range opto in front of there for you, you know.
Yeah. But then you get Carl, and his divot in the back is a little bit too deep. So when he hits a ball from one side to the other, it sometimes rolls across the top very slowly. And then all of a sudden, oh, where'd the ball go?
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait forever. Yeah. But hey, I'll just lock 3 balls in there. It'll be great.
Easy. It can have 4 balls. So just put 4 in there.
It's a secret. It's a secret. The secret code, the secret sauce, right?
How about optos in there? We could be fitting more. We definitely could.
Yeah, we needed optos all the way through, all the way around.
All the way around it. Yeah.
My biggest struggle with the game as a whole is when you get it all put together at work, you run through all your tests, you get all your plastics on, your ramps, your ship, your house, and then you say, son of a gun, I forgot to put the ball in the flooble crank. And then you have to take everything back out. We found ways to cheat around it, but it hurts every time. No, but as far as the line goes lately, I would say things have been, I'm going to regret saying this, smoother sailing than they have been in what seems like a very long time. We've been upping production quite a bit at the shop lately. We've taken on a lot of new people, and we're really upping the numbers that we can get out in a week right now. And it feels very good to be doing that. And it's really nice to see that this build is going pretty smoothly, I'd like to say. There are days where it's hard, but that's pinball in general. All right, well, David, anything you got for the most challenging as far as...
I just try and keep getting Eric exactly what he wants, which I fail and somehow make up for it sometimes. I'm not sure. I'm waiting for meet Eric in person again and see what he's got to say to me in person. But you know, I mean, as I said, I just try to give them everything they want, and hopefully that's, you know, making everything go the way it needs to go. And if it doesn't go that way, we'll find a way around it. Simple as that. There's no wrong answer. We'll just got to find a different solution for it. So yeah, that's my life.
The 2-word summary of the problems that David has are looping backgrounds. Because some guy likes to pick out shots in the show and go, oh, well, could you make this one loop? I know it's like an interior of a school and it zooms in over the course of what's going on, and it's not really a loop, but you could loop that, right?
Yeah, why not, right? Like, and you know, I mean, I guess that would be probably the most satisfying is people go, oh, well, you're just pulling clips from the show. And Ooh. It's not the case. Like, yeah, there are clips in the show, but there's a lot of hand animation and stuff that goes into
the Columbus animation and
I have to say that one of my favorite things in the whole game is the tilt animation, which is other than the little Plumbus itself, everything around it is 100% Dave.
Yeah. Again, it's just like sometimes everything lines up perfectly, and you know, it's just, you know, if you don't notice, if you're not, like, my thing is, as long as they're not complaining about the display, I've done my job. That's all that matters. As long as they're happy, they're not complaining about it, you know, it's great. And it's no different than being a video editor. If no one sees the edit, I've done my job. If you see my edit, I'm screwed, you know, because you shouldn't see what I do. So, you know, as long as people are enjoying it, and there's, you know, there's stuff I see that I know I can improve on and so forth. But again, you know, it's one of those knee-jerk things like, oh man, like he's just pulling clips. And I was like, do you not know how many times I had to modify and change and recreate that? I mean, I guess one of the good ones, Eric, is Pirates of the Pancreas, making the looping end shot. Like, you know, it's like literally taking the helicopters and reanimating them and moving them around. I don't think at that point, I think Eric was like, he won't be able to do that. And he's like, hey, what do you think of this clip? And he's like, really?
Yeah, I had pointed to that part of the show and said, is there enough in here we could cut together to make a loop? And you came out with probably 200% longer than I thought you were going to.
That's one of those happy accidents that just actually worked perfectly. There's lots of other ones that's like, it's taken me a long time to get through. But, you know, as I said, just keep sending it to me and I will see what I can do. So far, I think we've done a good job at it. And Eric, that's all down to you, mate, making it work seamlessly together, because the choreography between the code, the physical layout of the game and display and the music makes it so cohesive. And I think, you know, not to toot Spooky's horn, but I think we have one of the best combined packages in pinball today. I think it's the most cohesive packaging in the industry, you know, and I think it's mainly because we all love what we do, you know, and I wouldn't change this team out for the world, you know, so good job, guys.
Wait, I have an animation for this.
Cool.
Clap.
All right. And David, you know what? I actually discovered today even that I am really good at animation making. I just discovered it like 2 hours ago. I discovered I'm really good at it. So if you ever, you know, need something like
I want to go on
dark or
vacation.
something.
How about you can do the next one, bud? It's all you, bud. No, we'll work
I'll send
together.
you my resume. It starts now.
You and me working together, man, like one more person would be amazing.
We need to get Subliminal Taco into Rick and Morty.
Subliminal Taco. Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your guys' time. I just want to say thank you guys for coming on and talking about the game a little bit more. Scott, I know we've had you on to talk about this game prior, but it's good to catch up because that was about a year ago now, and a lot has changed in that year.
It has, big time. Yeah, it's been a long time.
So, well, it wasn't a year ago, but getting
It
close.
might have been. Who knows?
It's getting, yeah. Well, we were.
What day is it?
We're almost. This will be October when it airs, so almost a year ago. Rick and Morty's been in production for almost a year, and I remember when it was still just called Haunted House Party. All right, so if you found the Spooky Pinball Podcast on Zune, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or any other podcast hosting directory, be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Email me, bug@spookypinball.com, for your Pinball Life giveaway. Scott, are you still live streaming? Uh-oh. Where's your voice?
My voice went away. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you still live stream?
I have not for a while, but you know what? The weather is going to be starting to get real junky around here, so I'm going to start doing that a little more and doing some random stuff. But you know, sometimes it doesn't even have to do with pinball. So
yeah, where can people find your Twitch at then?
You can go to twitch.tv/Scott Danesi, and that'll bring you right to my stuff there. But,
and Scott, you need to do more DJing because my boy is really like nearly every morning. He's like, can you put some DJ music on? Put some techno on, Dad. I'm like, okay.
Oh, you're probably just rolling your eyes and you're like, oh.
No, it's actually, I'm introducing him into like, sorry, Bug, I know you want to end the thing. It's like, but I'm introducing him into like, you know, Euro techno and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
All right, maybe I should just send him some stuff.
Oh, dude.
That's where you just take out your TNA cassette tape and...
Oh, man, he's just like, what? Did Scott reach out to you yet? Does he know what type of deck I should get, Dad? Come on, Dad, tell me.
That's awesome.
For me, it was the first one I found at a garage sale, and it works perfectly. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for coming on, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.